actually kind of a pre-basic theta healing class. Okay, our goal is to teach it as a practitioner certification. A couple things you don't know: we actually trademarked this entire algorithm of you thing. It's its own sub-connection that helps explain theta healing to give people an understanding of what's going on inside of themselves, and as we've talked about when we get to instructors trainings, even help with theta healing days. Hi. So here's the deal. We started talking 6 or 8 months ago, and I talked to my mom about it really briefly, and my mom said, trademark it. So we did. We went through the process and got it all started. And we started teaching a little webinar where we talk about some of the emotions that we're creating and doing things with.
And if you've seen it, it's called the algorithm view in you, for you. And it happens to be every last Tuesday of every month, and you can see it. We cover some virtues that have to be, and relate to the algorithm of you as a person.
What's an algorithm?
Hey, thanks for the question.
Thanks for the question.
That's just where we were going.
I love you, you're so cute.
So we hear the word algorithm, we hear it a lot. You hear it online, you hear it when anybody talks about the internet, you hear this algorithm, and it's taken on a lot of perceptions about the word, but an algorithm is something that filters and utilizes data for a purpose. So it takes in all the data of what's going on, and then you filters it to create and solve problems or sub-problems. Well, as we've talked about so many times, the greatest computer that exists is ourself and our body. We were teaching classes and talking about how to approach the information. The word algorithm came. As we started doing some research, we found out that you're processing at least, these is very small numbers. In fact, they're already trying to say we were calculating more, but you're processing at least 11 million pieces of information a second. Little tiny bites of information per second. Your conscious brain is functioning with about 50 of those pieces of information.
Now, how do we know which of those 50 are going to be kicked up or brought to the forefront?
Of your experience. Well, the subconscious is running so many things on autopilot. And they have done lots of studies where people can solve problems without having all of the information. Because inside of ourselves, we're still accessing and solving problems, and we do it. There's a wonderful quote, like we have a semi-automated robot running our subconscious that helps solve different things. So as we started to get into this explanation and talk about what we're doing, we realized we're always connected to this creation energy. Mom talks about in the very basic class that we use the subatomic particles that exist inside ATP, the little quarks and things that are just pure creation energy. Well, our body is actually creating and making ATP all day long, every day. You're making your body weight of this stuff, which means that your subconscious is connecting and creating constantly. Well, what is it creating? It's using and sorting through all of this data and putting it together to allow our experience, to allow our reality. And what the algorithm of you class is going to delve into
More about learning about what it is that is subconsciously trained within you to kick forward, and what is it that you have within you that is actually being utilized. What pieces are being given to use in your own algorithm?
Well, we're actually going to delve into a couple exercises we're going to walk you through right now, some of the emotional exercises. The class is broken into little sections and has quite a few exercises that help you understand kind of what and how you've been working to create things in yourselves.
So how you've been programmed to react to different situations.
Exactly. So what
For those of you that didn't hear that online, how you've been programmed to react to different situations. That's correct. Thank you, our best and most wonderful student, Raena.
I'm a student you don't want in your class.
different emotions in your life are actually chemical reactions that the supercomputer you creates to help problem solve situations. And so this first little exercise that we're going to take you through, to a group of 1,000 people, you're already programmed to have those emotions. That's your reaction in your cells. That's how it solves the problem. And we know that in Theta Healing, we can do belief work and we can change that. But when we're explaining it to the world, how do we get in touch with these things? What are you creating with? That's what this algorithm class is about, is to show people what it is that we're teaching and how we're teaching it to change these creation energies in ourselves. If you've been programmed to create with anger or fear your whole life, it's going to be the easiest emotion in the situations to come up to help you solve a problem. And it doesn't have an imperfectness, it actually is perfect. It's what your system knows how to utilize so well.
So you're telling me that if you grew up in a family full of fear, that your first reaction might be...
Wait, hold on, no one can hear you.
She's saying if you grew up in a family full of fear, I can repeat.
Then when you face a situation, you've already got the algorithm to respond to fear. Run, fight.
Absolutely.
Well, we know that because we know Rachel Yehuda talks about it in epigenetics. People who've been exposed to trauma from lifetimes have inherited a protein marker that makes it so that they're more ready to respond to trauma because their ancestors were exposed to large amounts of it.
But with fear...
With fear, you'll be programmed, or anger, you'll be programmed. Not only that, you'll be looking at the situation and trying to utilize that tool to solve it. If we try to give you a different one, you might feel foreign.
But in Theta Healing, we would say, where did the problem begin? We would know that your body is responding to, like, the survival self. Where did this start? What did you get out of it? We also know that your undercurrent is always trying to fix things and always trying to change things, like the computer. So algorithm is explaining to people that they are like a computer. They're programmed to react, and we can shift those programs and give you different behaviors. Now you know why I wear a hat.
Stop.
No, it's just terrible. So, this way, you have a really good way. He's going to show you, introduce you, and a really good way to explain Theta Healing. Theta Healing is an energy that can actually kind of shift an algorithm that's there that isn't working for you. And an algorithm is a set of commands in a computer, and it comes up at certain circumstances in a computer.
It takes all the data that you're processing and works on solving problems or subproblems. The more complex the algorithm depends on how we program it to use certain things. We can program it to not solve problems very well, or we can program it to solve the problem perfectly in every situation around us. And that's where Theta Healing comes in, where we are taking that control of the connection. And he's got your shit.
Yes, he does.
You want this one? This one's
Okay,
yours.
I'm good. Yeah, I got my class back then.
This is
So, would you say that that's a good way to talk to a scientific community, a community that understands computers?
And what's the date?
Just using the right words.
I believe it's October 7th.
Yeah, it's October 7th.
And the actual class is not called Algorithm of You. That's the end of the class. The class is called Discover Your Algorithm. You'll see it posted all over ThetaHealing.com.
And we're